Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Indie Reads Aloud. We're going to have a lot of fun today. Lately, I've had the distinct joy of interviewing and listening to authors read from the southern states because I have a friend down there who's putting on an amazing event, Creative Slingers of Ink, and she keeps sending me all these really great readers and authors, and they're fantastic people. So I'm really super excited. Today, Evelyn Puerto is here to read for us, and we're going to chat a little bit. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Puerto, just like Puerto Rico.
See, I did it. Every once in a
You're good.
while, my English actually works. So that's exciting. Welcome,
Congratulations.
welcome to the program, Evelyn.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
It's going to be fun. You were telling me in the green room that you didn't intend to be an author. You
Oh,
started
absolutely.
out in the medical profession. So I know we talked a little bit about it in the green room, but what would you say was the defining event in that flip from your old career to your new career as an author? When do you think that was that you walked over that line and said, okay, I'm committed to write books?
I think it was when I was working on my first book, which was a memoir for somebody else. And I was sitting on my living room floor, surrounded by a bunch of note cards, trying to organize all of the source material into something that was semi-coherent. And I realized this is like putting together this huge puzzle. And it was just so much fun. And then I realized as I was actually writing, it was more like a game to find the right word, the exact right word. And I found I was falling in love with the process. And I think it wasn't till much later that I decided I really want to do this. But I think that was a big seismic shift in my thinking.
I love the word seismic because when you're in it, that's exactly what happens. It feels like an inner earthquake.
Yeah, exactly.
It really does. So your bio talks about you write in multiple genres. Can you name those for me?
Well, my main one is epic fantasy. I have
Mhm.
written a few science fiction stories. I've done memoir, one under my name and one as a ghostwriter, and then I have a little nonfiction book on writing.
Spectacular. And then it also says here that you have a lovely family, you have a wonderful husband, you have three daughters, you have grandsons, and a psychotic cat. Now, the thing I'm really interested in here is the psychotic cat. What are one of because we love pets on this program. We're animal friendly. So I love to hear stories about how the animals impact authors' lives. Can you give me just one example of how your cat is psychotic?
Well, I have to say she's no longer with us,
Oh,
but
I'm sorry.
yes, she was a calico, a beautiful, beautiful cat. My youngest stepdaughter had picked her out of the pound, but she was a diva. It was a diva on steroids, and she would sleep on my chest and just be so nice. And the next minute, meow,
Yeah.
and she has clawed you. And the vet finally told me that he thought she'd been taken away from her mother too soon, and she never learned to live in polite society, shall
Yeah,
we?
she never learned good manners.
Right. And
Right.
I would have to tell people, do not touch my cat. And they'd say, oh, no, cats like me. And the next thing I know, they're showing me a scratch on their hand.
Yeah.
I told
Yeah.
you to leave her alone.
Yeah.
She
I don't have a cat. I have a small dinosaur. Pet at your own risk.
really,
Right.
she's like a wild tiger. She looks
Yeah,
beautiful, but anyway, but she was good company while she was with us, but we did have to put
absolutely.
her down.
Yeah. It comes a time.
Hmm.
So your book, The Girl Who Broke the Dark. Um, Tell me the backstory. Give me the synopsis. What is this story about?
This story is my reimagined Sleeping Beauty. I took the
Mm,
story, gave it some dark twists, and turned it on its head. So we have Princess Eliana, who is told she has got to go to the underground world of Malkh and wake up a sleeping prince who is in a curse, who's been sleeping for 100 years. If she doesn't do it, the evil sorcerer who's been plotting to take over the continent and enslave everybody for a millennium will have some free access to the continent. Well, she's naturally terrified, and she does not want to go to this underground world, which is supposedly populated by half fish, half goat people. She doesn't want anything to do with it.
That would be a little strange.
That would be a little scary, yes. So, but her father and her mother kind of prompt her, as does the man she's engaged to. So she finally agrees to go, thinking, well, I'll go there, wake up this dude, and then I'm out of there. Well, she gets to Malkh. It is not at all what she expected. And after she breaks the curse, she realizes that breaking the curse is just the beginning.
I love this. I haven't even heard you read yet, and I'm already invested.
Well, good, good. That's what we
This,
like to hear.
this is super fun. Okay. I'm looking forward to hearing you read a bit of this for us. So when you are ready, Evelyn, please read aloud The Girl Who Broke the Dark.
All right, here we go. I'll just turn in my book to the first place. Okay, give myself a drink. Princess Eliana of Ymittos wondered if using her magic to strangle the heir of Sinar would cause a war. She sighed and forced her lips into a smile. Just one more sacrifice royalty demanded. If only the fate of the realm didn't depend on her friendship with a visiting princess. The girl riding a chestnut mare beside Eliana surveyed the city streets with the air of a conquering empress who condescended to allow the rabble to witness her magnificence. Eliana's cheeks ached from the effort of hiding her true feelings. To relieve the pain, she closed her eyes and tipped her face into the cool breeze blowing in from the sea. Merciful winds, spare me. Straightening in her saddle, she made another attempt to engage. In a few minutes, we'll pass the library. You can see the towers already. Right now, Ymittos is hosting an astronomy symposium with participating scholars from all over the continent of Artable. I believe some are from Sinar. Her companion made no reply. Princess Daria, heir to the throne of Sinar, and her entourage had arrived 2 weeks before. For those 2 long weeks, Eliana struggled to entertain the other princess, choking back the sarcastic riposte she wanted to hurl at Daria and her supercilious sneering. Even the previous evening's lavish celebration of the winter solstice had, in Daria's words, failed to impress. Before Daria's arrival, Eliana's parents lectured her endlessly on the importance of making the heir of Sinar her friend. They didn't know if the emperor of Sinar planned to absorb Ymittos into his empire or simply wanted a stronger alliance. Eliana needed to win Daria's confidence and find out the emperor's intentions. The queen had arranged dinners and dances, theatrical spectacles, and concerts. Eliana had done her best to make sure that Daria enjoyed them all. But Daria made her disdain for Eliana's country and everyone in it quite obvious. This morning, the drizzling rain and sleet that had fallen continuously since Daria's arrival had ceased, and the weak midwinter sun peeked through the clouds. Eliana proposed a ride through the city, thinking that once Daria saw the spectacular architecture of Ptolemeda, she'd find something she wouldn't deride. Their horses paced slowly through the crowded streets. 2 guards preceded them. One was a burly man clad in Ymittos' colors of navy and white. Somehow his livery looked drab compared to the hues of Daria's guard, brilliant turquoise against somber black. Street vendors hawked their wares, shouting the praises of their wine, sausages, and clams. The smell of baking flatbread mixed with the odor of manure from the stables connected to a roadside inn. A breeze brought a whiff of rotting fish from the port. Eliana glanced at Daria, who was crinkling her nose. An icy wind blew the hood of Eliana's cloak from her head, teasing strands of her black hair into her eyes. A scant half-hour into the ride, and Eliana was berating herself for thinking the sights and sounds of the city would make Daria's presence less odious. At least they were out in the fresh air. But a canter through the countryside, when she'd be permitted to ride astride, would be better than this slow parade perched on an uncomfortable side saddle. Have you seen enough? Eliana asked, ready to turn back. Why? Are you cold? One corner of Daria's mouth curled. No, of course not. Eliana flexed the toes she could barely feel inside her boots. Are you? Daria snorted. We'd call this winter. We'd call this autumn, not winter. Eliana pressed her lips together. She'd already heard endless, tiresome tales of Daria's exploits with a bow and arrow hunting in the vast forests of the northern provinces of her father's territory, forests that were blanketed in snow many months of the year. Snow rarely appeared in any part of Ymittos. Instead, a dreary drizzle fell through most of the winter, and while the spitting rain had ceased for the moment, gray clouds churned overhead, reflecting Eliana's own dark thoughts. How long would she be saddled with a companion whose every word made her feel inadequate and incompetent? Perhaps challenging Daria to compete with bows or swords might wipe the smirk off the other girl's face. Years of training with her cousin Evander had given Eliana skills few girls had. Besting Daria in a duel was a tempting thought. Better not try it. It was her duty to sacrifice her feelings for the sake of the alliance with Sinar. Eliana didn't want to risk a diplomatic incident, or worse, embarrass herself, if Daria won. A white marble building came into view on the right. Wide steps led to a portico whose roof jutted 3 stories above its mosaic flooring, supported by a row of towering statues of the former kings of Ymittos. That's the King's Theater. A new play will open next week. If you're still here, we could go see it. Holding her breath, Eliana waited for Daria's reply. The princess hadn't said how long she'd stay. Perhaps she'd be leaving soon. For the rest of my life, I'll celebrate that day as a holiday. That would be delightful. The other girl's tone sounded like she'd rather have her fingernails torn out than attend the play. Eliana stifled her impulse to wield her air magic to fill Daria's mouth with dust. Instead, Eliana fixed her faltering smile in place and pulled in a deep breath of the crisp air. Wonderful. I'll arrange it. She pointed. The statue on the right of the entrance depicts Castellanus the Conqueror, for whom our royal house is named. My father is the 35th in his line. Mine is the 91st in his. What's that? Daria pointed with her chin at the pillared building across the street. Too bad your line didn't end at 90, Eliana thought. Stretching her lips into a bland expression, Eliana replied, The Palace of Philosophers, where our learned men debate issues and current events. Would you like to observe? Only if they include learned women in their debates. With a smug smile, Daria cast a sidelong glance at Eliana. Oh, forgive me. I forgot. You have no educated women here. Eliana put a hand to her mouth and coughed, hoping to cover her shock. Well, it was true few women in Ymittos received much education beyond simple reading and writing. This was not true of all. She'd enjoyed the benefit of tutors in most subjects the boys studied. How dare Daria include her in the ranks of the unlettered? I think you may be misinformed on that point. I doubt it. Eliana repressed a biting report. Visiting princesses were every bit as tiresome as solving mathematical proofs, and much less interesting. She shot a hard look at the girl. A dimple dented Daria's smooth, gently tanned skin, and her full lips were pulled into a grin. A stray beam of sunlight caressed her dark hair, illuminating its golden highlights. How Eliana coveted those highlights, along with the jeweled lacing Daria used to belt her fine linen chemises, her patterned leather boots inlaid with gemstones, and her tall, willowy build. But most of all, Eliana envied Daria's confidence and her boldness to say what she thought, even if it crossed the line into rudeness. I intend, Eliana choked back her impulsive words. She couldn't let anyone know her plans for improving women's education once she became ruler. That might make her father question the wisdom of allowing her to inherit and prompt him to pass her over for one of her male cousins. A tremor shook the ground, causing Eliana's horse to shy. Shouts froze passers-by in place. Eliana stared in the direction of the noise, where a dusty plume rose into the frosty air. The princess's guards drew closer, with 2 assuming positions beside the girls. Pulling tighter on the reins, Eliana murmured to her mare. The bay tugged on the bit as if preparing to bolt. What was happening? The momentary shaking had not been the familiar trembling of an earthquake. Does this occur often? Princess Daria asked. We don't have such disruptions in Sinar. Only when irritating visitors come to call, Eliana thought. She looked past Daria down a side street. I think there's a problem with the canal repairs. She remembered vividly the last time there was an accident in the canal works. Scores of laborers had died. She'd never forget the desolation of the widows and fatherless children. What's it us? The neutral expression Eliana had wrestled onto her face came close to cracking like an egg that had been squeezed too hard. While the canal works had mages to deal with accidents, she felt an obligation to aid her people, something that would no doubt elicit more scorn from Daria. Let her sneer. Eliana turned her horse. I'm going to see what happened and offer to help. What can you possibly do? I won't know until I get there. Without waiting for an answer, Eliana nudged her mount's sides with her heels and moved closer to her guard. We're going to the work side. Lead on. The man raised his eyebrows, but silently turned his horse. Excellent, Daria said. Finally, something more stimulating than marble palaces. Eliana ground her teeth. She wanted to like Daria. She really did. Neither of them had siblings, so both were destined to inherit their respective kingdoms. To be on good terms with the dominant empire in the western part of the continent of Artibel would serve to maintain peace and stability. Everyone would benefit if she and Daria became friends, but Daria wasn't making it easy. In a few moments, they reached the dig site. Crowds had gathered, some shouting, others wailing. Eliana guided her horse slowly through the throng, giving people time to move aside. When she neared the canal's edge, a mud-splattered foreman ran up to her. It's not safe, Highness. Please don't go any further. Can you tell me what happened? The earthquake last week weakened the sides of the canal. Before we could finish the repairs, the rains came and eroded the earth around the supports. So we closed the dam's gates and drained the canal to continue the work. With the water pressure no longer holding up the stones, they collapsed. He grimaced. Workers are trapped. I'm not sure how many. Can you get them out? I don't know. When the canal sides fell, it weakened the supports. I fear the dam will collapse before we can reach the men. Half the workers are trying to shore up the dam. Others are working on the rescue. Have you sent word to my father? Yes, Highness. But we don't have long to wait. Our mages are doing what they can, but their powers aren't enough. The man shuddered. At least it's not a sinkhole. Eliana's throat clenched. Falling into a sinkhole was worse than drowning, indeed. Anyone sucked down into the dark underground realm of Malkh never returned. Legend claimed that monsters who were half fish and half goat devoured them. Eliana wasn't sure she believed those tales, but she wasn't about to venture below to find out for herself. Can't we do something? Daria asked. Us? Eliana tensed in her saddle. Daria wanted to help. Yes, us. You've got air magic and I've got water. This was true. Eliana tilted her head as she considered. At 17, neither she nor Daria were supposed to use their magic without supervision. It was a shocking idea, and an intriguing one. As royals, they possessed more power than most mages. Using their magic could save many lives. Besides, the workers could die before other aid arrived. Eliana tossed her reins to the foreman. We'll help. She jumped from her mount and looked up at Daria. What are you waiting for? Daria grinned. For you to quit being the perfect Ymittosian princess, I suppose. Eliana wasn't sure what that meant, but insult or joke, she wasn't going to respond. Then stay where you are. She turned to the foreman. Where's the collapse? He pointed to a ladder. You can see better from the level below. Ignoring the protests of her guard, Eliana sprinted toward the ladder, Daria on her heels. The two girls drew up to the canal's edge, breathless. The canal diggings loomed beneath them, an enormous ditch 100 feet wide that stretched from the Bisaltes River to Lake Ptolemaidae, many miles away. Pausing only to hike up the skirts of her peplos and tuck a portion of its ornate hem into her belt, Eliana swung onto the ladder. Before beginning her descent, she gave a wink to her still protesting guards. Daria's tanned skin paled, and she stood wringing her hands. We can't help from up here? Eliana repressed a grin. Daria was reluctant to descend the rickety ladder, clearly nervous about the height. Too bad for her. Eliana relished being in high places. It was the dark and closed spots that made her sweat. Wait, Your Highness, the foreman leaned over the edge. You shouldn't. Too late, Eliana called. She descended rapidly, reminded of her days climbing mountain cliffs with Evander. The familiar ache in her chest surfaced, the emptiness after Evander died, all because of her. She shoved her grief away. Now was not the time. She had to focus on saving the workers. The ladder twitched, and she gripped the rough wood harder. A glance upwards told her that Daria was clambering down. Eliana smirked to see the girl's slow progress. Daria wasn't so condescending now. Once she reached the bottom, Eliana jumped off the ladder onto the stone pavement of the narrow walkway lining the canal. The sides of the canal blocked the weak winter sun, leaving the air cold and damp. A few moments later, she was joined by a white-faced Daria, the sweating foreman, and a pair of guards. Eliana didn't give the men a chance to protest. Show us the cave-in. Yes, Your Highness. The foreman moved to the edge of the walkway and pointed down. Eliana gasped. Dozens of men were in the mud, some 50 feet below, some half submerged, others flailing to pull themselves from the swampy morass. To the left, the massive dam holding back the river water showed signs of a leak. A damp spot was seeping over the top. Why is no one trying to rescue them? She asked. Highness, the foreman said, we had to stop. There's not much time before the dam gives way. It would be certain death to go down there. He gestured to a group of 5 men and women slumped on the walkway. A sixth lowered her hands and toppled to her knees. Our water mages spent themselves trying to help the trapped men. They have nothing left. What do you think, Princess Daria? Eliana said. If you push water while I push air, will that keep the dam from breaking while they pull the men out? Let's try. Daria flashed her a smile, and Eliana wondered what had happened to this supercilious princess who sneered at everything and everyone. This version of Daria was almost likable. No time to marvel about that now. Taking a deep breath, Eliana summoned her air magic, savoring the breathy coolness that filled her. Releasing her power, she blew a wind against the dam. She shuddered, feeling the weight of the water pressing against the earthen barrier. Beside her, Daria screwed up her face and waved a hand. The weight of the penned water against Eliana's air magic lessened.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, so much fun. Yeah, I knew it. I'm hooked. I'm in. I'm
Good.
all in.
So
I'm all
glad.
in. One of the really intriguing parts of craft that has always stimulated my imagination is where we get the idea for names, place names and people names and magic names. So when you're sitting down and creating this amazing series, how did you decide on names for your characters?
I start that through the world building. So Ymittos is very loosely ancient Greek inspired. So I just looked up Greek names and I some of them I used and some of them I tinkered with the spelling a little to make it something
Okay.
different.
Okay.
And Sinar is roughly Byzantine. So I took names there. Um, what else do I do? Sometimes
Do
I
you have
read,
any? Yeah, go ahead.
sometimes for the world of Malkh that they end up going to, that is loosely based on some mythology from the Caucasus region, from Ossetia and those areas. And I used some names from those old legends for people there.
That's incredibly fascinating that you have all this mythological background or historical background that you've embedded into your books. I think that's a really cool idea.
Thank you. It helps a lot to give me a little bit of a foundation to build off of and take it in whatever direction I want to go.
Yeah, it's super fun. And I love that you make the the object of the book a sleeping prince rather than the trope sleeping princess. I like that you flip that and you're creating a story of strong women, which I can really, really appreciate.
Oh, great. Yeah, they were fun. And I have to say, Daria really has become a fan favorite for a lot of people just because
Excellent.
she is.
So last question, as I already alluded, I'm a pet fanatic. Do any of your characters have pets in these stories?
You know, they don't, not in this series, but in my last series, based on something my editor said, I gave one of the characters a pet rabbit.
Okay,
So, yes, but
awesome.
I usually don't think of it, partly because they're doing a lot of traveling around. So they're not at
Mhm.
home with their animals. They've got their horses, but yeah, they're not home with their pets.
Understandable. I'm excited to read this when I come down in October for the festival. I will definitely meet you and pick up some books there, and I encourage everyone else to attend and come check it out. Um, and will you come back and read some more for me? Because
Anytime.
I'm just a recovering 6-year-old and I like it when people read out loud to me. And I love your storytelling, so I'd love to have you back.
Yes, anytime. I would love to.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the program, Evelyn.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Have a great day.
You too.